Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to today's session, CPD webinar on the use of augmented reality for social studies and geography as well. Today we have Jan from the US, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself. She's a second grade teacher and she has a very interesting story. So she would be sharing today as part of the presentation how she used augmented reality in her classroom. And if you have any questions, you're very welcome to ask. And so the stage is yours. Welcome.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. I'm Jan Sexton, and I've taught second grade for 1 year, but I taught first grade for 33 years. They finally promoted me to second grade this year. So anyway, I am so excited to share with you today. I'm an augmented reality fiend. I'm just a maniac and love to use it in my classroom, and my kids love to use it also, and they're very good at it, many times better than I am. Anyway, to get started a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to share my screen with a ancient Egypt. Anyway, the seventh grade teacher came to me and she said, seventh grade just finished studying Egypt. They'd love to share it. I said, oh, we would love to learn about Egypt. So they came to us, and a few things we did to get ready for Egypt. First thing I did, of course, was we downloaded the apps. I've always had the apps on our tablets, and we looked on our maps at using ARC geography, and we just looked to find Egypt, what continent was a part of, what kind of vegetation, what kind of animals, and just for a little bit of preliminary work. Now, this is a funny story. I did not realize that you could print the maps out separate. So we were all gathered around the big map on our table. And then I went to the website and realized that I could print out in color the maps of the individual continents. That's huge, because I laid them all around the room, and that was so much easier for us. Anyway, we did that. We also enjoyed this little virtual field trip from Magicorps. Now, I go to Magicorps quite often for their virtual field trips. They're very good. We went through it as a whole class activity and talked about quite a bit of Egypt through that also. Anyway, we finally, it was the Tuesday for us to go to the cafeteria where seventh grade had set up Egypt. Now, down here on this first page, I also have my Egypt stations lesson plan that I'd be glad to share at a later time. I can send that to whoever needs it to share out. It gives a lot of directions. Anyway, one of my favorite things during our time in Egypt in the cafeteria was the Nile River. Now, seventh grade had laid out. So this is the Nile River, the longest river in the world. We have our barges, and our crocodiles. The QR codes tell us facts about the Nile. Okay, so you can see they did a really nice job laying out the Nile for us and showing us the importance of the Nile. We also talked about pharaohs, and we made pharaoh headdresses. And then we went over and stood in front of the green screen, took pictures, And then you can see that we put some Egyptian pictures, images behind us, and we had that to share with people. Like we were really right there. The kids did that themselves. They do a very good job with green screen. Also, we talked about hieroglyphics, and I found this great hieroglyphics typewriter where you can go to this website and you can actually type. For example, there's the hieroglyphics keyboard. Okay, so sorry, I see the tab at the top now. This is my first time. Anyway, this hieroglyphics keyboard, the kids would just type, and it was a good, kind of an exit ticket. They typed something they learned from the Nile, or from, did you get to see the Nile video?
No, we didn't.
Well, it's in the presentation that I can share later. All right, mummies were very fun. We talked about how the Egyptians would mummify their bodies. And we talked about that they would take out the guts and put them in canopic jars. And we found this great activity with oranges, where the kids would eat the guts of the orange, and then inside the peeling, they put a some borax, sea salt, cloves, cinnamon, and they stirred that up and put it in there, closed up the peeling, and then they wrapped it in the gauze, the gauze tape, and wrapped it real good. You can see from the picture that they put their name on it. And then we put that aside, and we waited 4 weeks, and we unwrapped those. And we could see that the orange peel was just fresh as a daisy, but of course the insides had dissolved or were gone. So anyway, that was a great activity, and I have a link to that in the presentation also. We talked about the gods and goddesses, and we made some jewelry with cardboard. We also talked about their daily life, and I used actually Quest and made an ARC Quest, and I made a little activity, a little quiz for them to use. I went to the Quest app and I went to create a quiz. It was very easy to do. I just did 4 questions. It's easy to use. You can use the images that are already in the app, or you can go to the web and find images also. But the kids love doing this because they would see the image in augmented reality around the room. They're on tablets. When they click the image, it would give them the question, and then they would answer the question and move on to the next one. There were just 4 questions. I could have added more, and I can add more at a later date too, of course. Oops. Thank you. All right, and there you can see some of the photos. They thought it was kind of funny over here. On the right, you can see Auden is showing the image on Oliver's throat. They thought that was hysterical. So anyway, we used 2 classrooms, and they were able to wander around. Now, one problem I had, a couple of the tablets, I had to log in as myself. I think the kids did not join quick enough. And instead of stopping and restarting, I just logged in as myself and went to the quiz on the app itself. I think that was me, though. Then after, as kind of a wind up at the end of the week, we went back to the maps. We talked again about the geography. You can see we talked about the insects. I teach at a Catholic school, so we were even able to, of course, go into scripture. And when we went into the insects, they were all looking for the locusts and the frogs for a couple of the plagues that God brought on the Israelites and the Egyptians. Anyway, that's just a little side note. But again, I was so excited when I discovered I could print the maps out separately. But we talked about, you can even click on the app, you can see the weather. It was just amazing. And the kids, they could do it for just hours and hours. I'm very blessed in my classroom that I have tablets and Chromebooks that the kids use. But I pushed for the tablets. I begged for those so that we could use them. Anyway, that's all I have. It was very fun. And I'm very much looking forward to using the apps again at the end of the year when we do a big animal reports. Also, I was going to say that we went, the ARC Create, I went into that a little bit. I was going to have them create maybe some kind of an Egyptian habitat. I couldn't really find anything. I found one with a river that I thought about using for the Nile, but I decided to save that and use that at the end of the year when we create animal habitats. And that way they can each create their own habitat, add the vegetation and the animals and creatures. So that's what I have.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. And Christy was also writing in the chat that seems like a fun activity. So thank you very much for sharing your experience. It's great. I don't know, are there any questions maybe that's the attendees would have for Jan before we let her go and teach again? So if you have a question, you can unmute yourself. If you don't have any question, you're very welcome to put a minus in the chat, and then we'll know that we're all good. Again, thank you very much for joining in, and it's a fantastic presentation. I think it's a very nice way, and I like the combination how you use different type of applications to kind of to see how different activities can fall in terms of letting the students a little bit create things which is an upcoming activity for you.
Yes.
And also help the students to kind of look around and do a little bit of testing of the knowledge and have fun activities combined with something else. Mm-hmm. So basically they have the opportunity to see to learn in a different way about the ancient Egypt.
Yeah, it's great because I could just look and see how they were doing as they answered the questions. So it was a great activity.
Absolutely. And I just have a quick question to you as well. How do you think augmented reality really adds on to your teaching? I mean, you've taught for over 30 years. It's absolutely incredible. You've seen it all, how it was before and how it is now. So what really kind of sparks your interest in trying something new and innovative and bringing AR specifically in the classroom?
Well, even though I'm nearing the end of my career, I am way more excited about learning myself and sharing that with the kids. When we used to teach, we would teach to the middle and hope that the high kids were interested and the low kids could catch up. Now, this is such a great way of differentiating. I've got some kids that are on the tablet, but they're interacting with the tablet and with each other at their own pace. And going to places, not everybody's going to be interested in the insects, but they'll look for the vegetation or the weather. The weather was another one. So they're able to spark their own interests and then kind of create their own way. But having things in their hands, that's huge, just touching a screen. I mean, I got way more out of them with dialogue and interaction than I would have gotten. Now, we did do some writing, but I got way more vocally than I got on the paper. And that's what counts. So,
absolutely.
And they go home and they share it with their parents too. So I have parents asking me, what app is this? And how can we use it? And I actually printed off some maps and sent them home. So anyway, the differentiation is just unlimited and priceless.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. And probably last question before we let you go is what would be your recommendation? Because we do have some people who already know about augmented reality. They've used different type of applications, for different subjects. But we also have people who are completely new to the aspect and they're looking into bringing AR to their classroom. What would be your recommendation? What should they look at and, where should they start?
Well, the big map. I saw it on Facebook. I was on Facebook a year and a half ago, and I saw this little kid with a tablet and things popping up from the big map here. And I'm going, oh my goodness, what is that? And it was really funny because I just ordered it through Facebook. I had no idea what it was. And then I believe one of your reps is called Helen or Helene, and she contacted me and she said, I'm sending you this, but where'd you find it? Because of course I had to pay in money and it was listed in pounds. It was hysterical. But anyway, social media has its bad sides, but for educators, it's great on there. And I joined an Augmented Reality Facebook group. And then of course I joined Cleverbooks Facebook group. But just put the kids on a tablet on the map. It's great. Quiver is another great augmented reality. It's more, and it's coming out, but it's started out more fictional, of course. But, and this is, it's more, maybe more science, whereas this is right now for me a little more social studies. But, and of course I can't wait. Next week we're going into shapes. And so I'm anxious to use the geometry side next week again. But just start with a map and a tablet.
Just with something small, right? Just to see how things work with pre-designed content, because you also went a little bit step ahead. First you work with pre-designed content and see how that works, see how the kids interact with it, and then you can kind of upgrade yourself and go with the create opportunities, and then take it even further and do the assessment with using augmented reality experience as well. Okay, so you went all the way.
I did. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I'm teaching with a second grade teacher. This is her first year teaching. So she gets very excited about it too, and is very receptive to learning. So that's great.
Fantastic. Well, we'll be looking forward to hearing again from you how it went, with teaching math with shapes, and also how your animal lesson go.
Well,
so hope to see you again in our further CPDs. But for today, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to you.
Thank you. I do have kids waiting outside my door.
Yes, so that's why we're going to let you go. But if anyone has questions, we actually can leave your details or they can contact us. So we'll send the presentation after we receive that from you, and we share it with also as part of the recording. So thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.